Sound. This is PJ Parker. Are we live? Yeah, we're live, Frank.
Okay. Wow.
We're actually having a very jovial time today for a subject that is you're going to see that it's not a terribly jovial subject. But this is PJ Parker, Franklin reporter and advocate, and here today live with Mr. Frank Resta at Resta Car Care and Rental Center, which is the corner of Cedar Grove Lane and Amwell Road, a familiar spot for anybody who has lived in Franklin Township for over 75 years. And why we're chatting with Frank today, and another shameless plug for the Franklin Reporter Monthly Digest, the May edition, which is about to be in your supermarkets and fast food places and restaurants and other places of your interest. On page 2, there is an ad, and it's right there, and it says $500 reward. Now, that $500 reward is being offered by Mr. Frank Resta for any information that leads to the resolution of a 40-year-old unsolved murder right here in our community of Sharon Thor, who was a high school acquaintance of Frank. And he's going to tell us how he got interested in this, and Franklin, how you can participate in perhaps making justice happen for the Thor family. Frank, tell us, how did this all begin?
So obviously, I lived here my whole life, and we were like maybe one of the original gangs, a couple guys, and we would be down at Dominic's Pizzeria, and we would hang there and smoke cigarettes and drink beers in the back, and we were like the seniors, okay. And then there was like the freshmen, there was little cliques, and the population was a lot less. So kind of everybody kind of knew everybody. So I know that I had rubbed elbows with these murderers.
Oh.
And certainly Sharon, I didn't know her personally, but when it happened, it was devastating. And I couldn't believe that they never, because it was talked about a lot more back then, that they never found the murderers. So recently, the Franklin Township Adult Academy, Citizens Academy, had a course, fascinating course. I highly recommend everybody take that. And during the detective week, it was brought up. And it was like, wow, I remember that so much because, it was the biggest news in town. Yeah. And I was like asking questions, and there is DNA with believe the murder weapons at that there, and so that's what sparked my interest in this. Talking to my classmates and stuff, what could we do? So I came up with this idea. It's not my original idea, to put a reward for the apprehension of a murdering, and I'm going to say rapist, because there is, I believe, data that her clothes were somewhat off. So what a horrific thing. And I came up with the $500, and it started to build some interest, and that's what this is all about. So people would say, $500 isn't enough. And I'd say to them, well, what is the dollar amount to turn in a murdering rapist? You tell me, So they just stare at me when I say that. But I'm hoping that maybe other businesses can ante up, and or $500 may not be a lot to some people, but it is a lot to other people. So it's really just to restart the interest in finding these murderers that have been out there for that many years. One of the interesting things, and the detectives told us, was that when they confess, not these murderers, but other such crimes, that they actually fall asleep because the conscience is holding so much anxiety from their crime, that when they finally confess, then they can relax. So, that's something that I found interesting. So other than that, I've also had the people say, well, aren't you worried about, retaliation of the criminals coming after me? And it was a risk and reward, which certainly, I did think about. And I said, I'm going forward with it. I would feel wonderful. I know the parents, the brother, they would also get final restitution from it being solved.
Just so that they could sleep at night. It's almost too horrific to even contemplate that it occurred at all, but that it has gone on, even with some evidence that could incriminate the guilty parties, that it is still lingering in the community. So, Frank, you're being very, very brave to do this, but the nobility behind your offer is outstanding, Franklin. And I would urge individuals as well as businesses, if you want to support Frank Resta's supporting of the solving of this mystery that is not just a novel, it's not fiction. This happened in our backyard, even though it was 40 years ago. There is no statute of limitations on murder, first of all. Second of all, murder is never the way to go. It's absurd to even say so.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that it is the only unsolved murder in our town. So we want some closure with that.
And in so doing, we cleanse our own plate by having this come to an end. And then maybe Sharon Thor can truly rest in peace. So, Frank, I noticed in the ad, it is not necessarily your phone number that you want people to contact, but it is Crime Stoppers. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I'm not a police officer or a prosecutor, so I certainly don't want people calling me and with the tips. But there's the Crime Stoppers phone number, and the Franklin Reporter. You'll see it there, or actually it's 1-888-577-8477. So you would call them. You wouldn't call me if you have the tip, but if the restitution where the criminals are found, I'd be very happy to give you the $500, and maybe other businesses can ante up. Honestly, if there was a dollar amount that someone called me and said, if I had X, I know who it is, I would do everything I can to get what you need to turn these criminals in. So.
But we don't want to turn this into a circus or a treasure hunt. This is not about being paid to do the right thing. This is about a gesture, a kind gesture on the part of Frank Resta to give people an incentive perhaps to come forward. If doing the right thing is not quite the incentive out there, a $500 bill, even though it's not $5 million, it's still $500. And it's a gesture on the part of Mr. Resta to start this. Now, if you are a business or an individual and you do wish to participate in this by offering your own addition to this dollar amount, Frank, do they call you directly?
I guess so. Sure. Yeah, I could help with that. And then we could obviously add the reward, make it go up. All right. And be happy to have any individual, or if somebody wanted to start a fund me page, or if they wanted to, just sit down and talk about it, and maybe the more people that talk about it, the more we can solve this crime.
Well, it's about closure. It is about doing the right thing, Franklin. If you have any information, again, Frank, the Crime Stoppers number is
888-577-TIPS, TIPS, or 8477.
That's directly for the tips. But again, if you want to join with Frank in boosting the reward that he has begun at $500, then the other number again is...
Well, that would be the station, 732-873-8900.
Okay. There you have it, Franklin. This is about an unjustly unsolved murder of a young girl who trustingly went out for the evening. She apparently left with two friends, as far as anyone knows at this point, and she never made it home. So this is about closure. This is about giving a family the opportunity to finally say, my daughter, my sister, my cousin, my grandchild, Sharon Thor, rest in peace. This is PJ Parker, Franklin reporter and advocate. Thank you, Frank Resta, for this generous gesture on your part.